And for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Phillips.
Present.
Councilor Sims.
Present.
Councilor Wilder-Cross. Present. Councilor Pratt.
Present.
Councilor Gagnon.
Present.
Councilor Lavoy.
Present.
Councilor Siegel.
Present.
Item 2024-9-14, discussion on the layout of the extension of the townway known as White Birch Lane. Proposed order 24-130. Order that the town council discuss and lay out an extension of the townway known as White Birch Lane as described in the notice below.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to remind folks that I live on Bramblewood Lane, and if the council believes that represents a conflict of interest in this matter, then I will recuse myself.
You'd like the council to vote on
Yes, please.
whether you need to recuse yourself.
Please.
All right, is there a motion to have Councilor Wilder-Cross recuse herself? By Councilor Gagnon, is there a second? I'll second it. All right, so all those in favor of...
Question, Madam Chair.
No, we can go, I think we should just go right to the vote. We have to discuss this, so we're going to go right to the vote. So all those in favor of having Councilor Wilder-Cross recuse herself and step down from this item? All those opposed?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Per legal, it says, and I quote, case law for conflicts of interest that say that an official has a conflict when he or she is placed in a situation of temptation to serve his or her own personal interest to the prejudice of interest of those that she or he serves is a conflict of interest. She meets that definition per legal.
Per our council rules, we weigh in on the matter, and we just did.
Okay. Madam Chair, I'll recuse myself from the proceedings as I find that it's out of order.
All right, I think you need to finish.
Okay.
Yep.
Notice of intentions to lay out, alter, or widen the townway. To the inhabitants of the town of Gorham, Maine, pursuant to 23 MRS 3022, notice is hereby given of the intentions of the municipal offices.
Sorry, people can't hear you.
To the inhabitants of the town of Gorham, Maine, pursuant to 23 MRSA 3022, notice is hereby given of the intentions of the municipal officers of the town of Gorham, Maine, to lay out an extension of the townway known as White Birch Lane, as more particularly bounded as described as follows. Beginning at the northeasterly corner of said parcel and land of now or formerly Hill Street Terrace Housing Corporations as described in a deed recorded at the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds in books 367, page 198. Thence south 23 degrees 48 feet 47 inches east along said land of Hill Street Terrace Housing Corporation, a distance of 470 feet, 0.59 feet to the beginning of the tangential curve. Thence through land of grantor following a tangential curve to the right with a radius of 225 feet, an arc length of 80.5 feet, and chord that bears south 13 degrees 37 feet 17 inches east to land of now or formerly Jock D. and Susan P. Roby, as described in a deed recorded in the Cumberland County Registry of Deed in book 21081, page 238. Thence south 74 degrees, 53 feet, 59 inches west along said land of Roby, a distance of 51.37 feet to a non-tangential curve. Thence through land of grantor following a non-tangential curve to the left with a radius of 175 feet, an arc length of 72.66 feet, and chord that bears north 11 degrees, 55 feet, 9 west. Thence north 23 degrees, 48 feet, 47 inches, west through land of the grantor, a distance of 479.31 feet to said land of Hill Street Terrace Housing Corporation. Thence north 76 degrees, 4 feet, 36 inches, 36 east along said land of Hill Street Terrace Housing Corporation, a distance of 50.75 feet to the point of beginning. The total area of the above described parcel is approximately 0.63 acres. meaning and intending to describe a parcel of land being a portion of the land described in a deed to the inhabitants of the town of Gorham and recorded in the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds, Book 2676, page 249. The bearings shown herein are Grid North Main State Plane Coordinate System, West Zone 1802, NAD 83. And to meet for this purpose on the 17th day of September 2024 at 6:30 at Gorham Town Office, 75 South Street, Gorham, Maine, at which all persons interested therein may be present. Dated the 17th day of September by the municipal offices of the town of Gorham, Maine.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Motion by Councilor Lavoy. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Wilder Cross. All right, at this time, I'm going to have the Community Development Director, Tom Poirier, kind of give us an explanation of what we're doing tonight, and then I also have asked him previously if he would discuss what happens if this is approved tonight, and also what happens if this is not approved tonight.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Lori, for reading that. So what does that mean, right? So the council is here. What we're looking to do is extend White Birch Lane across a piece of town-owned land, map 26, lot 17, which has the village school on it and the ball field parking lot on the east end. So proposed road would go to the east of that parking area and then end at the abutters land of Jock and Susan Roby. So all we're deciding tonight is whether to extend that public road, that section across the town-owned piece of land. That's what we're deciding. If it does not get approved, then the applicant would go back and just amend the subdivision to take that road piece out and then move forward with their development with the other road connections.
Okay. And just for the public, just so everyone knows, the reason that I decided to have this special meeting tonight was because this is our regular workshop night. It's our regular scheduled meeting time. We did this the last time we discussed this item, and we want to allow for enough time for people interested to speak on the item, and we want to have the dedicated time to it, as we did the first time we discussed this. And this is also a request that has come from the planning board at their last meeting. So at this time, I would actually like to, before we have any discussion, open it up for public comment. So if anyone wants to speak on this item, please come to the podium and give us your name. Also, just a reminder, we have a timer here that we'll set for 3 minutes. So if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Attended a few of the planning board meetings and spoke against some aspects of the project. I found it interesting that the applicant did state on record that the Bramblewood wasn't on the original plan. It was at a request of the town council to add Bramblewood, and that's what they did. Now, I'm assuming that was because of language in the comprehensive plan, which does state the town should continue to encourage / require the development of a pattern of interconnected local streets where that is feasible, while somehow at the same time discouraging the use of local residential streets as shortcuts for commuter and similar through traffic, including assuring the design of streets does not encourage shortcutting through residential neighborhoods. I actually agree with interconnecting neighborhoods. That does make sense, but I assume that at the time this was authored, the thought process was an average Gorham neighborhood, something typical that you would see driving through any area, not a approximately 400 unit development in a small 1 square kilometer area that would add substantial traffic to a few select streets. I don't think the planning board or the town council should be able to cherry pick language in the comprehensive plan if it contradicts something else in the comprehensive plan. And specifically, on page 35, it does state, under local objectives, to minimize the impact of vehicular traffic on established residential neighborhoods. Bramblewood, Ridgeway, Roby, those are all established neighborhoods. So I don't know how you can approve one language piece but not another. You can't ignore that portion. So how do you justify which sections you implement and which sections you ignore? Bramblewood right now sees less than 100 cars a day. Once this is complete, after 10 years of construction traffic going up and down our road and the other roads, that's going to increase to at least 1,000, if not more. Once the Gorham connector is complete, most of that traffic is going to go to South Street. How are they going to get there? The shortest path, which is going to be Bramblewood and Ridgeway. When they're coming home, which is the first right, Bramblewood, second right, Ridgeway. All that traffic is going to be going through established residential neighborhoods. So, in closing, since you've decided to focus on the language of interconnecting streets, and you're not requiring a dedicated road, which I think it should have been forced for a development of this size. I don't think it was ever thought of when that was authored. If it had been forced, they would have figured out how to have a dedicated road to New Portland Road. But if the unfair burden of traffic is going to be experienced by Bramblewood, Ridgeway, Roby, then you have an obligation to also share that unfair burden with White Birch. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Nick Peeling. I'm a resident of Ruby Street for 25 years. Last this was brought up, at least last time I was here for it, we had to enact the timer for the first time ever, I believe. At that time, the general consensus among the people that spoke up here, with the exception of a couple people, were that the project in general was going to add too much traffic to Gorham by adding that many people. Now that we're beyond that phase, if I lived on White Birch, I would not want to be connected as part of this. That being said, I think the person who was just up here, he made a good point about how a direct road should need to be put in. I originally had a problem with traffic cutting through our neighborhoods as well. Looking at the actual road plan, I don't believe that's going to be the case, but you do need to take into account the number of additional residents that will be placed in there, increasing traffic buildup over time. And it's going to be rather troublesome for people driving who live in those neighborhoods. A lot of these roads don't have sidewalks, so in construction, sidewalks should definitely be placed in as well. And it's going to be, my other concern is on the second phase of the project. If that does happen, the vertical buildup, I believe there's 2 buildings that are set to have lots, and the buildings are going to be vertical buildings. Downtown Gorham is not really designed for that. So we're going to be having a lot more traffic on that phase. And then it's going to be the third phase of the project, I believe, where there's going to be a connection to New Portland Road. And at that point, that's when the traffic concern comes into effect of people coming from New Portland Road in through the neighborhoods out on South Street. If we do have a dedicated road to bypass the neighborhoods, that will alleviate the traffic amount, but also looking at the road plan itself, it does not seem like traffic would go through there anyway to bypass downtown Gorham. If you're traveling through Gorham, there's side roads further out by like the roundabout on New Portland Road that you would end up going through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. David Walsh, 85 Falcon Crest Drive, and a member of the Planning Board. Here to speak on my own behalf tonight, and I'm not speaking for the Planning Board, but in last week's meeting of the Planning Board, Phase 1 of the subdivision was approved. I was the one dissenting vote. I just wanted to share with you why I chose to do that. 2 reasons primarily, and that was, 1, the contract zone is not in place. I really felt that given it's hard to just look at the single phase without looking at the big picture, because once we've seen the big picture, it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle and not see the whole thing. And I also feel the contract zone gives not only you, the council, but also gives the Planning Board some additional tools to work with and to work with the developer. I feel that piece of land will be developed, whether it's by this developer or some future developer, it will be developed, so we really need to get the best development possible for the town. Secondly, I felt that the White Birch Lane part of the puzzle also needed to be in place. And without having you, the council, approve that prior to the planning board being asked to approve, I felt it was very awkward. I felt this is a major piece of the puzzle. In all of the public hearings that the planning board had, we had significant public input from residents, not only the folks in Roby, on Ridgeway, on Bramblewood, but also the folks on White Birch Lane. And I realize in this situation, it's the lesser of evils here. And White Birch Lane probably comes up short. And I feel for the people there. But we had the most significant input to this subdivision was with regards to access. And I believe the build out of White Birch Lane, personally, I believe the build out of White Birch Lane is the best means possible to do that. And thus, I could not vote for it, phase one of the subdivision, without seeing that in place. So I would ask that the council move that forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Roby. I live at 34 Roby Street, and I'm not going to repeat all of the excellent comments about the importance of distributing traffic through as many access points as possible, but I did want to add that there's a lot more land that has been directed to be developed in this fashion going down South Street. There will ultimately be more roads, and I would hope that the town would connect them to the roads within this development so there becomes a true network looking to the future. But I do want to make one comment. Fred Roby, whose lands this is, he really loved that land. He tried to put it into the whole thing into conservation for years, and so did his sons for as long as they could. White Birch Lane has a unique role in that process, the extension of it. I don't know if I have said this before, but we made an agreement with Bruce Roby and the Land Trust that they could put their trails into the conservation land across the bottom of our property. And it was quite awkward before this road was potentially there, but now it will be quite easy, and they can put their kiosk there and a couple parking places, and it will connect with the potential of the Crosstown Trail. And I don't know that anybody has talked about that, but I wanted to say that so people knew that, as well as distributing construction traffic, ultimate project development traffic, because everybody else has spoken about that. So I wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public want to speak? All right, I think we'll go to council deliberations. I do want to let you know that Owens McCullough is here. If you have any questions of him, he's willing to come up and answer any questions we have, so.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I want to begin just by saying I'm uncomfortable with the short time frame in which this was presented to the public. I don't think that enough people heard it was happening. When we did this prior and had the special meeting just for it, there was even a council meeting. There was a lot more discussion leading up to it. So I would like to make a motion to table this to either the October meeting or our October workshop time so that enough of the public is aware.
So there's a motion to table this item. Is there a second? No second? Motion fails. Councilor Siegel, to your point, it just came from the planning board last week from their meeting. So that was just, one of the reasons we had this time to do it. And we have heard some concerns from the public about that. But I think that we've advertised it just like we do all of our other council meetings and things like that, so. Anyone else?
Tom, question. Where is the, I guess, for the public, for us, for everyone, where is the contract zone at? I know we're not voting on that tonight, but as a discussion.
No, so two things. One is we want to get through this road piece.
Correct.
The contract zone's ready. We'll probably have that for the October council meeting. So that's ready to go. We just wanted to get through this process first and then we'll go forward.
So with that said, there were a couple of asks in that contract zone of like paving the parking lot and such that do relate to this road design, that's all. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up.
Yeah. So the contract zone asks weren't the parking lot. That was part of this road request. So in my memo that I completed for the council, so basically we identified a cost to pave that parking lot. We've had discussions with the developer. So if the council wishes to condition it, we can do that tonight. So you want to condition this tonight, not put it on the contract zone. So
Thank you, just for clarity.
Yeah, so I have a potential motion, you just add whatever condition you want to add.
And how much did we come up with for that parking?
To put 2 inches of parking in that parking lot, it's $77,710. The developer is just requesting that be divided over all the building permits in that first phase. Staff doesn't have an issue with that. We would do a performance guarantee as part of it, like a normal subdivision. So, and then as the units get built out, he would pay the fee for.
And that's only a 2-inch binder code.
Yeah, it's just what's required in the code. That's a parking lot requirement. Correct.
Thank you.
Counselor Sims?
Yeah, I have a couple questions, one relevant to the paving. If we pave the parking lot, are there any additional stormwater management interventions that we have to add, or is it basically the same as the current gravel situation?
Gravel, whether it's gravel or pavement, is both considered impervious, so there's no additional stormwater requirements as proposed as part of it.
Okay. I did have a couple other questions, if that's okay. So, a couple of good points made by some of the public comments there. We want to have the interconnected streets, but we also don't want to have, we don't want to be promoting commuter traffic cutting through. Really the only way to avoid that is how the street is actually designed and built. So the slower the design speed, the slower people will go and the less interest people will have in trying to cut through. I think if I read correctly that you're proposing this be designated as a sub-collector road. What would be could we consider requiring the designation be a urban access road instead, which has a slower design speed?
So the planning board heard that and staff. So what we did as a design alternative is we required the developer to do a sub-collector base in gravels and pavements, but we narrowed the width to an urban access. So basically you get a better constructed road that's as narrow as an urban access. So. And then they're proposing the 8-foot sidewalk that was requested by the council for that first piece.
For the piece that connects to the field,
yes,
and then it's 5 feet. On the
the typical sidewalk for the rest on the road.
Yes. And what are portions of White Birch? The existing White Birch Lane is going to remain a public road, but the extension part of it is not going to be a public road initially.
So the piece around the town piece would be considered a public road. It's the piece on the Roby, and then the rest of the development will be private until the town accepts it or doesn't.
Okay. So then the additional portion on the town land would become the town's responsibility to manage.
Yes.
I'm curious to know are there other traffic calming interventions that have been discussed as being required over the stretch of the new road? Like, for example, obviously we could have, you could have speed bumps. That's one option. It's not always the most ideal. You could have planters in the middle of the street at the intersections. You could have another interesting thing that's been promoted more recently is advisory bike lanes, which just the striping, which isn't expensive, it just kind of creates a sense of heightened awareness for the drivers. Can you talk about where we are with traffic calming that's going to be required?
Yeah, so I think this is, like, again, the first phase, so we're talking about roughly just over 40 single-family house lots. Now, there's a lot more coming forward, and I think there's a lot more ability to affect that traffic calming should there be a problem with speeds and those kind of things. We're doing four-way stops, all those things to slow traffic to make them stop. Consider there are a lot of sidewalk connections as a mid-block trail that's going to be proposed as part of the development. I think Councilor Siegel's been part of that discussion as part of the contract zone to get a multimodal path as part of being considered. So there are things that I think will directly impact the speed of traffic. And again, sometimes people just like to go fast, right? So the more that we can get, again, commuter traffic off local roads is better. Do I think this neighborhood is going to, so you got to remember what commuter traffic is. It's people going from Buxton to Portland, and are they going to cut through this neighborhood? I don't see that commuter traffic. Do I see local people using it, local roads to get to stores and cut through their own neighborhoods? Absolutely. But that's a little bit different than commuter traffic. So,
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I just want to comment on something else. When we were discussing the contract zone, one of the pieces that I felt would be helpful and make me more eager to approve a contract zone would have been an altogether different entrance into this property. And I wish there had been more discovery about whether or not something could have been built off of New Portland Road, even if it's a temporary access road that would be reclaimed after the building is done. And I think that whole idea just fell on deaf ears, and I'm disappointed that that happened. I think this would have made all of these neighborhoods feel a little better if that had happened. So I just had to go on record as saying that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got one more.
Go ahead.
Snow storage. So this has been previously used as a snow storage area for the town in the past. I know the Public Works Director is here. Do we feel like we have adequate areas still to store snow or to place snow?
I believe, we can have the Public Works Director come up and answer it, but I believe yes, because the road is actually going to the east of that parking lot, so you should have some snow storage. Whether this will remain the optimum place to do it with that road, I guess that's, as Public Works moves forward with the development, we'll see what's the best.
I'd just like to put it on record that that is something that we do need to consider as part of this, if approved tonight, is we could potentially lose that area, which has been important for that. That's all. I mean, the last few winters, not so much, but we could actually have a winter at some point here, so.
I'd like to add to the snow issue. We do have a sidewalk on Bramblewood Lane, and it is not plowed by the town. And what happens is the town plow pushes the snow onto the sidewalk, so it's difficult, if not impossible, for any of our neighbors to go out and shovel that snow away. I'd like some kind of promise, if that's at all possible, that that sidewalk would be cleared. We've got 16 or more kids that walk to school in the morning, and they walk all together, and they're just a great bunch of kids. And I hate to think that, where are they going to walk if the sidewalk isn't plowed?
I think that's a whole nother issue that we've
I know
talked
it
about
is.
at one time or another, because it can't just be in one area, it has to, so I think that's a whole separate other topic, unfortunately. Any other comments, questions?
Why did it go from 8 feet with the sidewalk to 5 feet? I mean, I thought we were kind of clear on 8 foot. Like, why does it shrink back down?
5 feet?
I believe that was the request, the 8-foot sidewalk to the fields. So the request was the 8-foot sidewalk, I believe, from New Portland Road to the ball fields. The request wasn't to change every sidewalk to 8 feet.
Understood. Okay.
Councilor Lavoie, you
Yeah.
look like you want to say something.
Well, as the memo we got from Mr. Poirier, we would need to make an amendment, right, for these two things, paving the parking lot.
Correct.
And the sidewalk to get it into here as a condition.
Yeah, what I would say is basically you would want to add the parking, paving the parking lot, or identify the cost for the paving of the parking lot to be paid for by the building permits as they move forward with phase 1, and then to approve the extension of White Birch Lane as proposed in the plan submitted by Owens, McCullough, and Sebago Technics. And then that just makes it clear that what's on these plans is what's going forward.
Okay. Can I make a motion to amend?
Amend what Tom said? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what Tom said.
All right, I just want to make sure Lori,
For both items, or do you want to separate them?
no, I think it's all one thing.
Okay.
Because in the plans is included the sidewalk,
Yep,
so I think
okay.
that kind of holds them to it, so.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I wonder if we could ask Owens to come up so that the folks who are out there can actually see what we're looking at for a minute.
Yep.
And then real quick, while he's setting up,
Yep.
is there any escalator or anything in that pavement pricing?
Yes, so there is an escalator that we include for all performance guarantees for all
Okay,
projects.
perfect, just because, I mean, it's not going to get cheaper, let's face it, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry, is there an active motion?
There is.
Yes, yep. So you want, all right, so is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Counselor Wilder Cross is going to second that. Now we'll discuss, you wanted Owens to come up and
Yes.
show what, okay.
Thank you. I butted in too soon. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is on. Yes, good evening. Owens McCullough, civil engineer with Sebago Technics. I'm just going to walk you from New Portland Road up White Birch Lane. In orange is the section that goes across the school property. So we'll build an 8-foot sidewalk from New Portland Road all the way up through. This is the access that goes into the retirement community. Across the old railroad bed culvert. It's 8 feet sidewalk that comes all the way up to the to an entrance into the ball fields, which would be a paved apron entrance, and then the ball field would get paved at some point with the money that's generated. From there, we would continue with the proposed roadway through the town property that would come up to here that connects to the roadway that's within the subdivision and development. This is the edge of the parking lot here, and where we're building is basically through the wooded area that's through here, so, and then there'll be some trees that will be retained along here. So that area that's already cleared adjacent to the parking lot remains, so that's there for snow storage. So we're not impacting that area, we're pushing it over to the back property line.
I'm sorry, can I ask one question relevant to that?
Sure.
Just, you make a, I'm glad you pointed out the trees. I know one of the other things we talked about at the last council meeting was having a safety barrier of some kind between the road and the parking lot where the kids play the t-ball. So that, what you were just describing, essentially addresses that concern, is that right?
Yes, and we purposely pushed the road all the way over to the property line so that from the edge of the ball field over, there's quite a distance of separation from that. So
Thank
it
you.
allows for the snow storage and allows a buffer between the roads.
Thanks.
And then there's also a curb cut that will be installed right here at the end of the road. That curb cut has to do with providing an opportunity. The school department in their master planning had looked at the potential someday for a road to come up on the backside. So we're just providing the curb cut if that ever comes to fruition, just good planning to have it there in place. And then it connects in with the rest of the subdivision. I would note that we've purposely put in a reverse horizontal curve, and 22-foot wide road. So this is just phase 1, so as time goes on, there'll be opportunity to see if other things need to happen. But that road is only 22 feet wide, so that's 2 11-foot lanes, pretty narrow, and that has a tendency to provide some natural traffic calming, because if you build it wide and big and long and straight, you can see it, people drive to that condition. In this case, we're building it narrower and we're putting some reverse curves in it, so it feels a little more uncomfortable as you go around. And then there's a number of four-way stops up into the development, so there's quite a bit built into it. And Terry's back there, and if I put speed bumps or speed tables in, he would yard me out back. So that's just really a maintenance issue. So we've tried to build narrower roads and put some reverse curves in it to provide that. So.
Thank you.
Was that helpful?
Yes, thank you. When I think of that width road and big construction trucks going, can they actually pass each other safely?
Sure, 11 foot.
I don't know a whole lot about big trucks, except they're big.
So 11 foot is wide enough for 2 passing trucks. They'll be moving relatively slow, but they can pass each other on the road. And we have this road, when it goes in initially, will generally be, at least for the first phase, initially will be predominantly for construction traffic when it comes in. Eventually the roads will get grubbed, utilities, drainage will get installed, then it'll get paved, and then it'll be more conducive to
regular traffic. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment to add those 2 items? Go ahead, Councilor Segal.
Thank you. The 77,710, so I just want to clarify, is the developer doing the paving themselves, or are they doing it in lieu fee to give to us?
They're in lieu fee to give to us to pave the parking lot when we so choose.
Okay. The way this is written, did this 77,710 include labor?
Yes, the cost for payment for our contract. We hire out paving, so that's our cost to lay that much pavement down.
Okay, so this is all inclusive?
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Okay. Sorry to ask a question for you as well, if that's okay, Mr. Irving. You mentioned that it was going up to the property line. Are there still going to be trees between the road and the housing development? What's called the Hill Street Terrace housing development that there?
Well, when roads are built, they generally clear the entire right-of-way, stump and grub it for grading, drainage, utilities, things like that, side slopes of roads. Plus, you want to have the tree canopy removed that's over the road. The solar penetration into the roads helps a lot with maintaining roads. So we tend to clear the entire right-of-way. It's where we're coming through, it's pretty well wooded all the way over. So there's still quite a bit of woods that remain in that direction. So we try to strike that balance between, providing the separation with the ball field, but yet allowing for the road construction.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is there will still be tree buffer between the houses and the road.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's my questions for now.
All right, are we ready to vote on the amendment to include those 2 items? Are you clear on?
To add pave the parking lot and construct the sidewalks? Paving the parking lot.
No, it's the parking lot and the sidewalks.
Okay.
Yep,
And then
as
to approve
in the plan.
extension
Yep.
of White Birch Lane.
Yep, as in the plans that we have.
Okay.
So include the plans in there. All right, all those in favor of amending the item? 6 yeas. All right, and we'll go back to discussing the item as amended. Any other comments?
I just have a couple comments.
Go ahead.
I won't drag on for too long, but a lot of this, I've been thinking about a lot of the stuff we've been talking about in the Fiscal Sustainability Committee meetings. A lot of it's pretty relevant. If we're worried about our taxes continuing to go up at a high rate, if we want to live in a community that's financially sustainable in the long term, we have to find ways to allow more people to live here in this town. We have to find ways to manage and allow developers to build more and different types of housing, particularly in and around our village center. The only way to stop demand for new housing in Gorham is to make Gorham an undesirable place to live. And if there's anything we can agree on, hopefully none of us want that. It makes sense to build new housing near our schools. It makes sense to build new housing along our existing public water and sewer lines. And it makes sense to build this additional point of connection to allow for greater distribution of the car traffic that's inevitable. Although, the more we improve our town's infrastructure for walking, biking, and public transit, the less we'll have to worry about the new car traffic. And I just lastly want to say, I think we need to keep working with the developers to try to find ways to incentivize them to build more smaller housing units as opposed to just a bunch of 3+ bedroom single-family homes. Because as we're learning in the Fiscal Sustainability Committee meetings, those are the homes that we're losing money on literally every year. It's costing us more to service those houses than we're making in property tax revenue, particularly when they're spread out on the edge of the town and there's miles of roadway that have to be maintained. So, obviously there's a lot of tough decisions to be made, but I think what's being presented here tonight makes sense for us to support. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I've said from the beginning, I, like Councilor Wilder Cross, wish that there was just one entrance somewhere else just serving the development. The cut-through has always been a concern for me, and as Mr. Poirier said, that it'll probably only be local traffic that uses it. But I just worry about the amount of people in there, and to Councilor Wilder Cross's concern about sidewalks and things like that. So that's always been an issue for me, is that it's a cut-through. I want to see this done well. I think we'll have an opportunity. The contract zone, I understand, I watched the planning board, I watched their deliberations about the multiple access points, and I think that spreading out the traffic, and now I'm also hearing more that there's going to be construction traffic, mostly on White Birch Lane. I don't think there's really, nobody wins, I guess, on the side roads, on Bramblewood, Ridgeway. Everyone's going to get traffic. So I guess that approving this tonight would just share the traffic with White Birch Lane, which I'm not sure. I don't know if it's the lesser of two evils or not, but so this is kind of an interesting thing that we're discussing. I feel that we do need to get this out of the way, as someone had mentioned in the comments, and just the order of things and how this is taken care of, and get this out of the way, decide on this tonight, and then, moving forward, and then we can move on to other things regarding this development. So I appreciate everyone's comments tonight, public comment, as well as the council's deliberation. A lot of great discussion, so thank you. So, any other comments? All right, all those in favor? 5 yeas, all those opposed? Oops. All right, and with that, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
All right, second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Pratt. All those in favor? 6 yeas. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.